becoming a partner in faith for as little as $25 a month. Call today.
After Shannon Deitz witnessed the sex and drug-induced downfall of her sister, she departed from her Catholic faith and started partying and drinking. Her self-destructive lifestyle led to many painful experiences that she shares in her new project, Exposed, Inexcusable Me, Irreplaceable Him. Welcome to Harvest, Shannon.
Thank you so much.
Wow, I was reading through your book and your message, and you've had a pretty tough time.
Yes.
I mean, several years ago, but still was pretty tough. So take me back to that time. You said you left your Catholic upbringing after watching your sister.
Right.
I would imagine that for some people it would have had the opposite effect, but you went down the downward spiral.
Right, and I wouldn't say that I wasn't able to leave the Catholic faith, being that I was still at home, so I still went to church, but what really happened was that I walked away from wanting to accept any of that within my heart and going to God. I was very angry at God. I couldn't understand why He wouldn't save my sister. Why was she still making these bad decisions? And then sure enough, I started making bad decisions. It's like when I chose to walk away from Him, the enemy kind of grabbed a hold of that and led me into these situations that I made the decision to party. I made the decision to put myself in these situations, which ultimately led to my ultimate downfall of the date rape, and just everything fell apart after that. And I felt like I walked so far away from God that He wouldn't want me back, and I just turned away altogether.
Now, were there particular things in the church that maybe turned you off, or was it just the situation with your sister that made you, question your faith?
Yeah, no, it wasn't anything to do with the faith that turned me off. It truly was, the ultimate relationship. I felt like I had a relationship with God, but I pictured God as this grandfather figure, and that, and the ultimate parent, that you don't do this, and that I couldn't get back in His graces, and I couldn't understand why. But the thing is, I didn't understand at the time, because I was a child and immature, that we have our own free will. And God's not going to make us love Him. He wants us, to turn to Him, and He was always there for me. He was always there for me, holding me. I chose to walk away.
You are very vulnerable in your book, and you talk about the date rape not once but 2 times. Talk to me, what was happening in your life that led to those events?
Right. Well, the first time was, when I chose to walk away from God, I literally felt this longing for the love that God had filled within me, but I had walked away from that. So what was happening is I was trying to replace a God that's irreplaceable. And I was trying to seek and find that love to fill that void. And so that is where I sought after that in man and wanted that in these young men. And that is when that first date rape happened, and it happened with a young man that I had been to school with and that I trusted. And after that, when that happened, because I was a virgin when it happened, I thought that I lost all ties, because my virginity to me at the time was my tie with God. And when it happened, I thought, oh no, now He'll never take me back, and then I just allowed men to use me and abuse me, and got caught up in just so badly wanting that love back. What I wish I had been told when I was that age is that, even though it was physically taken from me, spiritually, I didn't choose to give that up. It was taken. And so my virginity truly was still intact. Do you know what I mean? It was something I could have taken back. But I never heard that. And I just kind of went off the deep end there. And so what happened in college was I thought I found another young man that would fill that love, and instead I was raped again, and which often happens with those that are abused. You get caught up in this cycle, and it's a victimization. You don't feel like you can live as a survivor. You feel as if nothing good will ever happen.
So what was the turning point for you? Did you kind of hit rock bottom, or did you find someone who kind of
No, I absolutely hit rock bottom.
Maybe both.
Exactly. And what happened is with the second rape, it was almost as if God took that. I mean, God uses, in my opinion, He uses everything to bring good, and He will take the worst moment in your life and bring good from it. And I believe at that moment, he chose that vulnerability that when when it happened to me again, and I was like, really, what is wrong with me that I'm so unlovable, and that I would be so ridiculous to make that decision again and not have recognized that this man would do this to me. Exactly. And I began to turn to him, and he brought me, it was just, to me, it was the Holy Spirit just awakening within me and allowing me to see that he really was there, and he brought me back into church. And I had friends that said, come back to church, come back to Mass, go. It didn't matter what church it was just come back to him. And I started to feel him again and to recognize his presence in my life.
Now, there are parents who are watching, and they are just really concerned that, I teach my child, do this, do that, remain a virgin. And, when a child hits a certain age, it seems inevitable. They're just going to make these unwise decisions. But you're saying that, you can help kids guard their heart.
Oh, absolutely. You know what I truly believe, and my parents are wonderful, and they tried their best. We went to Mass every Sunday, and all of those things. But to me, it's a matter of truly opening up that line of communication and praying and bringing God into that relationship with you and your child, and to say, God loves you no matter what, and he's never made a mistake, and in you. And even though we do make mistakes and we're not perfect, because there's nothing in the Bible that says you are made perfect, that we are all sinners and we do make mistakes, but God calls us back, and he loves us regardless of all these decisions that we make. And I sometimes think that he just loves us even more, because he says, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use this to help other people, which is exactly what he's doing with me.
Yeah.
And go on, Drew.
As far as the gentleman that, well, not gentleman, but the guys who assaulted you, did you file charges, or what was the end result of that?
Well, the first one I never told, and which is most common with young women. And date rape is, and really any sexual abuse, it's very common with young women these days, and they don't tell. But the second one, I did come back, and I did go to the police. But the unfortunate problem is that I never went to the hospital, and I never got the what I needed to prove that he had done what he had done. So even though it went to the grand jury, it was dropped.
Now, was it difficult to go back and kind of relive some of these things writing this book, or was it somewhat maybe even cathartic?
Oh, it was very cathartic. It was definitely a journey that God took me on, and it was being able to almost look at myself as another person. I saw this vulnerable young woman, and there were many chapters that I would push away from the computer and imagine myself as that young woman and just say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You said that God used your situation for the good, so how is he doing that? Because I know you started a ministry.
Yes, I've started Hopeful Hearts Ministry, and it's a nonprofit organization that we are reaching out to those that have been survivors of abuse, not just sexual abuse, but all abuses, and even those that are going through debilitating loss, and allowing them to see through the story of Exposed and through different other venues that you can overcome that victimization. That does not define you. What has been done to you does not define you. And even though all of these circumstances happen in our life, God does have a purpose for you, and he will make that happen. It's just we have to turn to him and rely on him and keep him daily in our lives and say, what has happened to me does not define me. What is it that you ask of me, Lord? What have you given me?
Well, Shannon, the second part of your subtitle is Irreplaceable Him.
Yes.
And that's the point, I guess, that's the takeaway of what you're saying in your message. Kind of describe that for us.
Well, I know that sometimes the subtitle is Inexcusable Me, Irreplaceable Him. And that just means that sometimes we make the wrong choices because we are trying to replace this love in our life, this God in our life. And God is He is our everything, and he is irreplaceable, and he is the one that wants to give us unabounding joy and unabounding blessings, and he has put a purpose within our lives that is just amazing. And as it says in Jeremiah, I have a purpose for you, not for woe, but for good. And and that's exactly what He is. He is our God, He's our Father, and He wants to do so much for us.
Now, in trying to help, people who have gone through abuse, maybe there's somebody watching who, they've suffered from that. How important is it to, connect with somebody on some level?
Oh, well, and that's where I get exposed. It's from Ephesians. It says, you need to expose the things that have been done to you in secret and in the dark, and expose them to the light, and Christ will bring good. Come to Christ's light. And so we do need to talk about it. That's the first thing I ask of anybody that has gone through any kind of abuse. If you don't feel like you can talk to a family member, then go seek counseling. Seek or tell a friend, somebody that you can trust, but talk about it, because the more that you talk about it, the more it's released into the light, and that is when God can bring good from what has been done.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your testimony with us,
Thank
Shannon.
you.
And to connect with Shannon, go to Hopeful